Let's call the meeting of December 19th to order. If you all please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Cahill?
Present.
Councilman Cataldi? Present. Attorney Genesi?
Present.
Councilman Abbott?
Present.
Councilman Dean?
Present. Last time? Present. Minutes to be considered for approval. We have one set from December 12th, 2019.
I will move that we approve the minutes of December 12th, 2019, submitted by the town clerk.
Second.
Councilman Cataldi?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Supervisor Nesbitt?
Aye. Next, we have a public hearing to consider progressive development district, in other words, a PDD overlay in the medium commercial zone for area to include 985, 987, 991, and 1013 Bridge Road in the town of Webster. I wasn't at the last meeting, this was presented. Deputy Supervisor Cataldi oversaw that meeting. She'll bring me up to date on what's going on with that. But according to the town code, the purpose of the PDD, Progressive Development Overlay District, is to provide a means for developing those areas within the town zone HC, High Intensity Commercial, OP, for area north, Office Park, and Industrial District in an economic manner while encouraging utilization of innovative planning and design concepts. The PDD is intended to promote cooperative planning between the town and property owners developers. The PDD does not increase the density for the underlying zoning district, but allows flexibility in the placement of buildings, parking facilities, etc., to preserve green space, open space, and promote beneficial development by giving the planning board authority to approve site plans, applying standards and guidelines not otherwise allowable in a zoning district in which the parcel or group of parcels is located. The PDD recognizes the need to modify dimensional standards within a parcel or group of parcels proposed for common unified development such as setbacks, lot width, lot area, and buffers in order to carry out the intent of the underlying zoning district, and further recognizes that some such development may occur in phases over a number of years. The purpose of the PDD is to allow sufficient flexibility for such development without regard to the underlying setback, lot width, lot area, and buffer requirements between separate parcels or ownership lots within the development area when the property is developed in accordance with a development plan reviewed by the town board. After saying all that, let me give you an example. We have Webster Plaza next door, which is a strip mall. It's owned by one gentleman, and that one gentleman is taxed on that one parcel, and each store that is in there pays a certain amount of money to the owner who pays the taxes. That old concept has gone away. Take Town Center today. Kohl's owns their own building. Target owns their own building. Dick's owns their own building. If a bathroom breaks or they got a water leak, those businesses are responsible for the fixing, not a owner of a plaza. These days, these developers that are developing these plazas want to own the building. They want to own the property. And that's why we have the PDD, which allows these buildings to be moved around within a project area as Town Center was done. And that's what's being proposed tonight. And if you would like to give us a
Good evening. You might want to talk to the cost of engineering. here this evening on behalf of Charlie Fox and Blackwood Management. Charlie couldn't be here this evening as his father, Dick Fox, has recently passed, and the family's in Florida for their personal arrangements associated with that. He apologizes for not being able to make this evening's scheduled meeting. Should the board look favorably on, to move this toward recommendation for a planning board review, knowing that there would be no action formally taken this evening, the Foxes would be here in subsequent meetings to answer any operational questions the board may have. As Supervisor Nesbitt indicated, the primary objective here by using the PDD overlay district on these 26 acres of property, which is currently 4 parcels of land on the southeast corner of Shoecraft and Ridge Road, is to allow for flexibility in a comprehensive development plan. A number of years ago when we built the Rite Aid and when the Wendy's was built, we did some managed access plans. We started the first part of that whole comprehensive management and access and some of the primary objectives of PDD in terms of how the accesses work to Shoecraft, how they work to Ridge Road, how we coordinated access to the east with Dr. Tingley's property, how we eliminated some curb cuts on Ridge Road and managed that. This now allows us to create a comprehensive plan for how the remaining 22 approximately of the 26 acres could be developed without, as Supervisor Nesbitt indicated, breaking these off into individual parcels. Each one of the folks who build now, their financing and mortgages want that building, whether it's the LA Fitness building, which is under, also is in part of that town center. It has its separate financing, so that creates different lots with the needs for breaking up these parcels, but still having this be a comprehensive plan. If we were to put a use here and only put, have this in its separate financing, then it encumbers it with a whole lot of different setbacks, individual parking rather than sharing them. The shared parking allows us to reduce things beyond the density. The underlying zoning district here requires approximately 33% green space. The comprehensive plan that we've developed here actually yields about 43% green space. So almost 2.6 or 3 acres of additional green space by looking at this as an overall comprehensive plan. What this allows us to do is it also gives us some flexibility in terms of dealing with prospective users. The Fox family has owned the property for a number of years. There's been a lot of dialogue with people about different uses. With it being 22 acres, it has brought more regional type use, different traffic generations. This plan allows us, I think, to look at the overall underlying zoning, what the permitted uses are, promote the senior living component, smaller retail and service businesses that would then kind of surround or focus around the senior living, and bring a different component, which is a storage, but it's climate controlled. It's not the mini storage with individual warehouse, garage doors, whatever, but it allows that should a family member transition to senior, to a senior managed care type living arrangement, that you've got an opportunity to potentially store family items or whatever while transitioning parents into an area and have it still be regional or community based. So that recognizing that as people get older, things happen or whatever, things change, that and this is based on, we've had a number of dialogue. We have 2 users of the proposed uses who are in dialogue with the Foxes relative to the senior component and the storage unit. We don't have signed agreements with anybody. I think currently some of them are waiting to see how the overlay district portion comes, because if it doesn't go that route, then it would have to be conventional subdivided lots, breaking it apart. we lose some of the comprehensive ability to do this as kind of a managed plan. So I think, you know, what this plan represents is exactly the canons that are listed under the PDD of developing how can this be done, how are utilities, access points managed, but still allow flexibility. This building size could change, parking configuration could change, but still work within an overall plan for the 26 acres. How does it meet density? How does it meet setbacks? How does it meet parking? All of the canons that, you know, that are specifically enumerated as to what's the purpose of the PDD overlay district. None of the uses that we're proposing at this point, you know, are outside of the uses listed as being allowable in the underlying zoning districts. We're not looking for any increase in density. We're primarily looking for the flexibility, and it allows us to develop a more comprehensive plan that, should there be minor changes in terms of who the users are as we progress, that it allows that flexibility so that we truly can get this beyond just dialogue with people who are, how many acres in there, what can I fit on it, to how, you know, how can this be. And again, the interest has been that the individual owners want to be able to finance a certain amount of that portion of the development for their building, not be encumbered by the construction loan of somebody else. This is, you know, a result of, you know, the banking industry in the last few years or whatever, to where, you know, the changes in that industry are, and what this allows is that, you know, this building could get built without it having to worry about what loans are out on, you know, Wendy's building, and what, you know, what their finances do. So it helps promote the development and the viability long-term in terms of what happens, so that it's not burdening the entire property. At this point, I guess I complete, you know, my formal presentation. You know, like I said, there's 4 lots, it's 26 acres approximately of land. You know, we have a number of uses that are primarily, you know, proposed in, you know, they're all figures. What's on the plan here, the lighter green areas of what's already developed. The darker areas are you know, what are the future uses that we're proposing. You know, the senior living is approximately a 50,000 square foot component in alone. And then we've got, you know, in terms of proposed retail / potential restaurant use. Just find that page in my notes so I can tell you what the total square footage that we're proposing there is. Bear with me. We've got approximately 49,000 in retail. We've got 51,000 in senior living. The climate-controlled storage, as it's shown on the plan now, represents approximately 71,000 square feet. The climate-controlled storage and the senior living component are based on discussions that the Foxes have actually had with users and footprints that they've provided. The retail buildings, especially the out parcels, are based on, you know, our experience relative to what national and what regional, you know, restaurant use built, you know, type sizes are, and multi-tenant, you know, retail as well. So.
Wasn't at the last meeting, does the road off of Shoecraft extend to the property line?
It extends to the eye doctor's property, and we would have to, you know, the eye doctor's property has been subdivided off. We'd have to, you know, and we've agreed to work with town staff and Dr. Tingley relative to making sure that, you know, connection further east is viable. But through our property, it does go all the way around, and the question becomes, if it needs to come down, you know, and not through Dr. Tingley, but we're agreeable, that's consistent with all the dialogue, you know, we've had to date. This allows us to have reciprocal easement agreements for parking, utilities, all the rest of it, without the need for this. Typically, we'd come and say, hey, you know, if this is connecting and serving other parts of the town, would this be dedicated? You know, in this case, with the PDD overlay, that's one of the things that it affords is, you know, we're not looking, with the exception of sanitary sewer, all, you know, all the utilities, everything would be private.
respect to the road, I don't think this project goes anywhere unless you agree that that road goes to the property. We have to take traffic off of Ridge Road, and to facilitate that, we gotta have this road going all the way to the end of the property line. And then if Krista comes in later down the road, we can extend that road, as an access road, if you wanna call it that, along Ridge Road to take that traffic off. I think you're gonna have to get that reciprocal agreement before you get to the planning board. I think you're gonna have it placed, because it can't be something we're gonna discuss later.
We did discuss it.
Okay, I went there, so.
Okay, there were two items that were discussed, the driveway and then the internal sidewalks, and we had no exception with either of those comments. As the plan gets developed further, you know, the whole purpose of the senior living and the out parcels would be that it all is a cohesive.
You didn't do a traffic study yet?
We did a preliminary traffic study back in the early planning stages for the entire development. It has not been, you know, updated based on these uses. I believe the original overall development plan had more intense. You know, when we went through the Wendy's intersection and how that all worked, you know, as uses got added or whatever, and through the planning process, you know, should the signal, you know, should the intersection need to be upgraded, those are, you know, items we're aware of and acknowledge that that is potentially possible as uses get added.
Any more questions of that?
The other thing that we mentioned just now, and I did stress, was that I felt that there needed to be some pedestrian safety within this project.
Yeah.
So that if there are seniors living in the back and that they're able to get to, say, the retail, the restaurants and all of that safely and not be crossing the parking lots. And
Correct.
we needed to be sensitive to that.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing for anyone that would like to speak on this topic. Sir.
Matt Chatfield, 62 Park Avenue in the Village of Webster, also Executive Director of the Webster Economic Development Line. I guess I just had a couple quick questions for the applicant first, and then just some comments potentially about the PDD. The PDD was intended for the high-intensity commercial, industrial, and OP. This, I believe, is still zoned medium. This is zoned MC, correct? Did that zoning change?
Oh, no, here it is.
This is zoned MC, right? Okay. And then based on my review, I guess the one area of concern that I do have is regarding the storage use. The storage use in the market terms, they try and consider it to be a retail use, but in reality, I would struggle with that being a retail use, and I would have pause setting a precedent for that within the MC district further on. I think you may be opening up more opportunities elsewhere in that MC zone that stretches completely along the Ridgewood corridor. Other than that, I think a coordinated development on this corner is what's needed, and I think the applicant going for a PDD zone, if it's approved, if it's allowable, would definitely be beneficial, but the storage use, I think, would give me pause. So, thank you.
Jeff, did we not add this to the list in the MC PDD?
Yes, we did.
I think it's local on number 2 this year.
Yes.
Local and number
This year. So it's not on 360 yet?
It should be at the very end. They're sent and they're listed on the end.
I know this is not part of the project, but since I'm not gonna be here anymore, and we discussed it, can we just discuss Rite Aid there for a minute? You do have plans for that coming forward? I mean, not the. I know
They're still ironing out the final part. You know, Rite Aid, I believe, is still paying, under their lease agreement, is still making payments to Foxes. Foxes are, you know, pressing them over to maintenance that's not being done, and that's, you know, they're aware of that and trying to get that all cleaned up so that the Foxes can then legally turn around and put other users in there.
Okay. because it's
Yes.
overgrown.
Charlie's aware of that, and
Okay.
I know between him and his council, they've been working to try to get that resolved.
One of the biggest criticisms we often face is why are you putting more things in when there's empty right next to it? So, you know, if we see some sort of progress on that, people will feel much better about it.
Understood. And like I said, I think he actually, I believe, has a couple of uses he wants to put in there, as I understood it. You know, although they vacated the site, they still have the lease and they're still paying it, so they're trying to get them out of that. You know, they're not fulfilling their maintenance obligations. So they're, I believe in the matter of trying to get it all resolved legally so that they can get them out of the lease and then get somebody else in.
Okay. Any more questions from the board? Public hearing is still open. Anyone would like to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for discussion. Patty, you got anything from the last meeting?
No, we talked about those two items that were of concern, and I did mention those, not so much as to press the engineers to have that agreement in place, but I think it's a good idea. I also mentioned a similar, although not just similar, certainly not identical, project in Fairport over off of Whitney Road. And I had an opportunity to actually go over there and go into the apartments and see the development. And I think it's really great. There's senior living in the back and multiple uses in front. There's a lovely family diner, there's a hairdresser and a small pharmacy. Many things that are useful to those who are living in the back in the senior development. And I think it's almost like its own little village. And I think the opportunity to do a variety of uses here can certainly make for a very nice development if we're sensitive to the needs of those who are living there.
Anybody else? Anybody against the project? Sending it off to the planning board?
No, I think the other thing we really need to stress is people are always concerned about the traffic on Ridge Road, and this is something that we've been planning for a long time. And a rather new concept, at least in Webster development, where we're putting the roads behind it with the access roads, and it's not all coming out onto Ridge Road. So it really is alleviating some of that traffic, and I think that's great.
Okay, I will move that the Webster Town Board approve the development plan of lands on the south side of Ridge Road, east of Shoecraft Road. Whereas Blackwood Management LLC, Charlie Fox is the applicant and a representative for the owners of the real property consisting of 4 lots located on the south side of Ridge Road. Whereas the lands are currently in both MC medium intensity commercial and MHR medium high risk. Whereas the owners propose that the lands be developed as a PDD overlay district pursuant to Webster Town Code 225-21. Whereas an application is made to develop said property as a PDD progressive overlay district and is approved by the PDD development plan. Notice of this public hearing was published in Webster Herald on December 4th. Public hearing and approval of the PDD was held at Webster Town Board on December 19th. The notice of hearing was published and posted as required by law. That the proposed action is a type 2 action under New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. That the property and property within the affected portion of the progressive commercial overlay district as amended will be benefited. That it is the public interest to approve such progressive commercial overlay district as amended for the lands described. That the plan is conceptually sound in that it meets a community need. That the plan encourages sound development in the interest of safety and general welfare of the public. That the town shows a development pattern in harmony with the town code and the town master plan. The developer consents to payment of all town taxes and special district charges going forward, regardless of any housing tax credits or other special tax treatments or exemptions to which they may apply for or to which they may be entitled. That would include the Charlie Outpost agreement on senior housing, please. Okay? Yes. Okay. Yeah, planning board be authorized to conduct site plan review in accordance with the development plan and the provisions of Webster Town Code, Chapter 228. Also, we need some kind of verbiage in there that states that you will get that, I don't know, easement or whatever, to take the road to the end. I don't know how you want to write it.
Cross-access.
Cross-access, okay. And working, I don't know if you're gonna work in conjunction with Krista when he decides to move his project to make that road continue on. That's a must. And that would be my motion.
Second.
Thank you.
Supervisor Nisbet?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Keenan?
Aye.
Councilwoman Conlon?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have open to the floor, but since this is my last meeting and I get to control it, we're not doing it right now. We're gonna do it at the end, okay? I'll get through the rest of this quick so I'm not make you sit there, but I don't wanna go through that and then try to do the meeting afterwards, because it's not gonna work for me. Got regular town business, consideration to approve purchase orders, bills, and prepaid warrants as submitted by the Director of Finance. Mr. Cahill did the bills.
Yeah, I did review the bills, and everything being in order, and I reviewed the bills as presented by the Director of Finance.
Second?
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Supervisor Nisbet?
Aye. And I move to pay the prepaid warrants as submitted by the Director of Finance.
Supervisor Nisbet?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
So we have a resolution award pest control contract with Exodus Exterminating Inc. ending December 31st, 2020. Didn't have a contract on there.
We sent out RFQs to 18 companies.
Okay.
We received 3 back. The lowest bidder was Exodus Pest Control. And one of the problems with the police department is being an underground building.
Yeah.
The pests are a little aggressive.
Yeah, we got a couple bugs right here.
And big ones, but
So, what's your resolution?
so moved.
Second?
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Supervisor Nisbet?
All right. Next, we have a resolution to close capital project H0209 for Challenger Miracle Field. Go ahead, Paul. That was an outstanding.
Right, this project was funded by 2 $100,000 DASNY grants. The money was received, the expenditures were incurred with Monroe Roadways and Surface America. As the capital project stands right now, there's no funds left in the project, so it's at zero, so the work is done, so I think it can be closed up.
I move to close out capital project H0209.
Second.
Supervisor Nisbet?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
I'm trying, I know that. Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next, we have a resolution to declare the following surplus for transfer from the Human Resources Department to the Office of the Supervisor, Lazy Board Chair, asset number 3584. It's a brand new chair that we bought that the HR person did not care for, so we're gonna ship it over to the new supervisor. My chair is my chair and I'm taking it with me. So, I'm moving it. So, that's what this is all about. And new supervisor will have a brand new chair when he wants it.
I move that we declare the following a surplus for transfer from the Human Resources Department to the Office of the Supervisor, a lazy boy chair asset 3584.
Second.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Supervisor Nisbet?
Aye. Next, we have a resolution to declare the following surplus for trash recycled from the Public Works Department. We got a desk chair, two of them. One's got an asset number 03504. A stool for drafting table, asset 03309. And desk chair, asset number 0399. And 1, 2, 3 other desk chairs.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cottrell? Aye. Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Supervisor Nesbitt?
Aye. Next, we have a resolution to declare the following surplus for trash cycle from the town clerk's office. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 desk chairs. As you can tell, we all got new chairs after the renovations, and these are all going to surplus. 8 of them. Second.
Move that. Second.
Supervisor Nesbitt?
Yeah. Right.
Supervisor Nesbitt?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cottrell?
Next, we have a resolution to confirm approval. Okay, Charlie, you talk. What is
No, we have a couple of host community agreements that have been in effect. One has been in effect for 11 years, and that's with ABVI Goodwill, and the other's been in effect for 9 years or 8 years, 822 Hope Road. And they apparently slipped through the cracks and were never confirmed by this board. The host community agreement is an agreement with the owner of these particular properties who would otherwise be exempt from paying town taxes to, in fact, pay us an amount equal to what the town tax would be, regardless of any other exemptions they may have. And it was alluded to by Supervisor Nesbitt regarding the senior housing that's going to be put in place in the new development across the street. Well, in any event, non-proton is the Latin phrase that means now for then, and we are now just approving what has already been in effect, and we've been collecting taxes on these two properties for respectively 11 and 8 years. Any questions?
So.
What a host agreement, like Charlie explained, is that we're at Webster's a community, and everybody should pay their fair share. I mean, it's just the way it is. I understand Comida or whatever they're calling it now, Imagine Lumber County. But a long time ago, we decided here in Webster that we weren't going to wait and 10 years and get a prorated amount of money. We felt that if somebody was coming to town and they were going to participate in town of Webster, they should pay their fair share for the services they got and for the police department and everybody else. So we do what we call a host agreement. Since it's my last meeting, I tell you, Monroe County was not happy with me about that. And they haven't been happy with me a long, long time because I put a host agreement in place. Because they had their Comida or Imagine New York, and you know, I was kind of circumventing them and what they were doing, and they never liked it. But it's been good for Webster because everybody feels as if they're participating. I'll give you an example right here. Is ABV Goodwill. The CEO came in, we sat down, he says, well, why do you want that? I don't pay it anyplace else. And I said, well, late at night, when the police department are going around, do you not want them to check your building? Do you not want them to look at your place? Because they're looking at everybody else's. And do you want these other services you have in town? He said, when you put it that way, you sign that dotted line. And everybody else that has come to town has done that too. Because they realize that this is a community and we all have to pay for these services, whether it's highway, whether it's police, whether it's assessing, whatever it is, they have to pay. And there's no 10-year exemption and then I'll pay, and you know, we don't do that. So I hope it continues on after I've left, but that is one of the things I put in place a long time ago. So I will move to confirm approval of the two host agreements, ABVI and E22HR LLC.
Second.
Supervisor Nesbitt?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cottrell? Aye. Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Two more quick ones and we're done. Resolution authorizes the supervisor to sign the white collar union contract and negotiations with them today. And the white collar came out as a 3-year contract, 2% increase in the first year, 2% increase in the second year, 2% increase in the third year, no other changes within the contract. And I tentatively signed for it, but it's up to the board. In comparison to the blue collar that we just did a month ago, the blue collar got 1%, 2, and 2%. So it's just a hair different. And the reason for that is the blue collar had a kicker in there that if they went to high deductible health plan from the core plan, there was a $750 kicker in there in the first year and $500 in the second year. So far nobody's taken that. So they're getting 1% next year and the white collar will get 2. That's the only difference in the contract. So I will put out there a resolution to authorize the supervisor to sign the white collar contract.
Second.
Need a motion.
You just made it.
I did.
You did make it?
I made it. Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Webster?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilman McDonald?
Aye.
Okay, and the last one is I just need a resolution for part-time employees for 2020 to receive a 2% pay increase. They're asking me from finance to do this now, but the simple reason is if you wait until after the first year, it makes a mess of the payroll system and they'd like to get ahead on it so they can implement that into the system. Correct, Paul?
That's correct.
So that's what we're doing.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
thank you.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman McCollum?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Supervisor Webster?
Okay. We have to have open to the floor. So, before we get going, I know there's a few people here. Let me see if I can get through this. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone. I'm a 59-year resident of Webster, and for the past 14 years, I've been the supervisor for the past 14 years, and for the past 24 years, I've been on the town board. It has been a pleasure to serve the residents of Webster over this time frame. I have worked with many different town board members over my 24 years. Everyone cared about doing what is right for Webster. A thank you must go out to former Supervisor Kathy Thomas for her many years of mentoring me before I took over as supervisor. Over 24 years, the town of Webster has grown for the good, and we have done many outstanding projects in this town. We built a new community recreation building to serve Webster residents. Designated and constructed the First Responders Park in 2013, playground in 2014, spray park in 2015, and restrooms and changing in 2016. Continue with open space preservation plan, which now has over 3,000 acres of Webster homelands which will never be developed. Recently acquired 48 acres from New York State, making North Ponds Park a property under Town Parks Management. Oversaw the building of Liberty Lodge at Finn Park, instrumental in the development of Challenger Field, brought the Waterfront Festival to Webster, continued support of the Friends of the Trails, moved the Justice Courts to its own home, member of the Economic Development Alliance to foster game development, expansion of the Webster Public Library twice, renovations of the current building, kept the summer celebration, building of the stadium at Basket Road, founding member of the Finger Lakes Healthcare Trust, just this year went down 4%. Development of an outdoor skating rink in Parks and Rec. Webster Police and Highway Department have all needed equipment and safety training. We brought Webster Emergency Services to Webster. We recently started or finished renovations of Town Hall and the Town Board meeting room that we all sit in now. New Parks Building to house the park employees. New cell tower at the Recreation Building to serve Webster with Wi-Fi and emergency services. Received a $118,000 grant to look at Sandbar Park. Received a $100,000 grant to build the lodge at Sandbar Park. And what else we got? We've started a $12 million sewer plant and Texas. You know my thing on Texas. I'm going to miss putting together projects and working until they are completed. But I didn't do these projects on my own. I had help from current town board members, Penny, Bill, Barry, and John, and all 14 department heads that were always there to support projects that made Webster better. Believe me, the 14 department heads are the backbone of the organization that make Webster look good and supported me. The people who take a lot of guff from Webster residents sometimes are the heart and soul of the organization, the employees. Every day, they strive to make the experience of visiting the town hall a pleasant one. Highway and sewer employees always want to make their interaction with residents a good one, and always looking to provide services to Webster public in the most cost-effective way. Library, assessing, and public and park and recreation employees work very hard to service the Webster population with all kinds of outstanding programs which only enhance living in Webster. The accomplishment I'm most proud of is keeping the tax rate as low as I could over 24 years. So Webster residents weren't overcharged for services rendered. I have always felt that you, the Webster resident, could spend your hard-earned dollars better than Webster government could, and I have never believed in a slush fund of taxpayers' dollars just to have a rainy day fund. This sidewalk nonsense talked about lately around town is a huge cost and a tax project to Webster residents, when any subdivision in town can have them at their expense at any time. To have residents on Mike Road pay for sidewalks on Gravel and Regina Drive is absurd. To many who think I've cut a deal to be part of the lettuce project, that is just another fabricated lie from some residents that don't know me at all. In all my years, I've never taken any monetary gift or money to move any project forward, and I never would. What a way to ruin a reputation. In closing, there are a few special people I'd like to thank. And I hope you bear with me. First would be Patty Ann. She has been my keeper of my schedule and overall pleasure to work with every day. Patty has a smile on her face that lights up with all she sees today, and I thank her for our great 14 years. And finally, my wife for 41 years. She has been through all 24 years of me and lived the many ups and downs of 11 elections I've been in. No complaints from her. One last-minute meeting might stop, or during her plans, or one of the kids or grandkids' birthday parties. She has been the rock of the family. I'd like to thank her for her leadership through the years. I'm done, thank you, and I'm out of here. And the floor is open for anybody who wants to say, thank you.
I'm not going first. Maybe I am. Rick, I need you to turn to you two. President, will you come up for a sec? It's only take a second to look at this. So, I guess I'll kick off the evening first. Here's one. Here's quick. You know, 14 years ago, this gentleman walked into this town and didn't understand the message he was going to pick up when he met me. And as I was sitting and thinking today, you know, NAQALS, in our 30 years, I've picked up 75,000 residents in the town of Webster. And we've done a pretty good job of that for a long time, but not without the support of Supervisor Nesbitt and the town board. In 2015, we picked up a battle that I don't think any of us realized how complicated it would be and how personal it would become. But in the last 2.5 years, WEMS has treated over 8,500 patients. And we could not have done that without your vision, and your support, and your determination, and all the support of everyone in this town board. But it was your leadership that got us there. And so when we sit and think about the parks, and we think about all the things that make this town worth living, it's our organization that helps make it, your life sustainable here. And we couldn't have done that without Ron investing a lot of his own personal capital and energy into supporting an organization that, you know, we fought hard for. And I'm sorry you won't be here on the 15th of January, but you can bet I've got a bottle of champagne with your name on it. When the state says we get our permanent COA, you'll be the first phone call that Charlie and I make. But what I'd like to do tonight is present to you, Ron, a small plaque, a small token of our appreciation, which says, to Ron Nesbitt, Supervisor, Town of Webster. Can't read my glasses. For your continued support of emergency medical services in the town for the last 24 years. With deepest thanks and appreciation from the Board of Directors, EMTs, and paramedics at Northeast Quadrant Advanced Life Support and Webster Emergency Medical Service, December 19, 2019. And I'm sure, Supervisor Nesbitt, if the fire departments were here, and I'm sure the police department will agree, that this is on behalf of all first responders. You've been with us through good days and many bad days, and without you, we wouldn't have made it through. So for you, our deepest thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My wife often hates the phrase, behind every good man there's a good woman, because in many cases they're beside us, right? And Patty Ann, what Ron said is absolutely true, right? You have helped us organize meetings at a pinch, you've kept the riffraff away, you have made sure that when we need the ear of the boss, we got the ear of the boss. And so a small token of our appreciation for your new desk, wherever it will be, down here I think, right? And Karen, a little something for you too, right? Because we know that the bad days, you were the one he bitched to, right? It's your last meeting, who cares? All we complained to, and when we had tough times and long meetings, right? And he said, damn those guys and these postcards and these mailings, I'm sure you were the first one that got the flack. So, for all the things that we've accomplished in this town, the two of you ladies get a lot of credit. So thank you very much from all of us. Here, Ron, you'll need this. Okay. You're next again.
Good evening. My name is Barry Howard from the Webster Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce is a non-governmental business association that's been serving Webster since 1932. Our mission and vision includes the statement that the Webster Chamber fosters collaboration among business, community, and government to promote Webster's economic vitality and quality of life. The Webster Chamber is the voice and catalyst of business. Working together, we deliver a strong community of choice. Webster has become a community that people choose. They choose to live here, raise their kids and send them to school here, to shop here, to hike and recreate here, and to start and keep their businesses here. That can't happen without strong collaboration among business, our community, our school district, and our local government. On behalf of the Webster Chamber Board, our hundreds of members and their thousands of employees, I am here to thank our town board for their commitment to our community, and particularly to extend our appreciation to Supervisor Nesbitt for his continuous dedication to public service for the past 20 years, the longest in Webster history. Reflecting on the last 24 years, there have been a lot of things touched by Supervisor Nesbitt's tenure. Expansion of over 3,000 acres of open space preserved for the future. The upgrades and expansion of our town facilities, including the recreation center, the library, the justice court, the sewage treatment plant, the parks department building, and the town hall. The addition of thousands and thousands of square feet of shopping at town center. New parks including first responders and North Ponds. The building of Liberty Lodge, the outdoor skating rink, the spray park, the renovations at the Arboretum, the unique one-of-a-kind Miracle Field and Playground, and the future Sandbar Park. Fiscal responsibility that affords us a stable tax base, incomparable services to our community, including state-of-the-art technology in all departments, especially our police department, savings via the healthcare trust of which he was a founding member, controlled tax rates, transparent televised town meetings, and the publication of the annual budget. The collaboration on the creation of the Webster Economic Development Alliance that has given us a dedicated staff person to enhance our community image nationwide, as well as millions of dollars in grants for road improvements, the addition of sidewalks, the creation of Sandbar Park, the revitalization of our village. And today, another $1.84 million grant for roadways in the village at the Xerox campus. This collaboration between the town, the chamber, the school district, the village, and the BID is unprecedented in New York State and quite possibly in the nation. There are many more things I could mention, including his open door policy, his willingness to answer any question, the electronic town meetings, and his regular attendance at chamber breakfasts, where he kept the lines of communications open with our business community. I don't get that much time at the podium. So tonight, drawing near to the conclusion of your tenure with the town of Webster, the Webster Chamber of Commerce would like to present you with this certificate of appreciation. Presented by the Webster Chamber of Commerce to Supervisor Ronald Nesbitt in recognition of his 24 years of public service to our town, our citizens, and our community. His dedication to making Webster the best possible community has never wavered, and his support of the Chamber and its members is greatly appreciated. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Just quickly here, Barry was the most important person on my electronic town meetings because we would walk in and unscripted, Barry would talk for an hour. I didn't have to say a word. And it was great doing those electronic meetings, trying to give the public a better insight on what happened at town hall and what happened in government, and trying to explain with the department heads what their jobs were and how they serviced the residents of the town of Webster. Matt Chatfield is here too, and Barry alluded to it that we got $1.8 million today. It's just fantastic. We keep on hearing about Xerox, and we keep on hearing, what is it, Matt, every 2 weeks? Every 2 weeks, we still don't know, it's every 2 weeks, but this $1.8 million is going to help us now develop that campus if something does happen, because the roads that are there now are owned by Xerox, and nobody's going to come to town if they're going to have to take care of roads. We're now going to make those public roads, upgrade those roads, and if something does happen in 2 weeks or 2 weeks, we'll be in a better position to remarket that area and bring more economic development to the town of Webster, and that's the best part of this alliance that we're part of. Matt's worked very hard on the Rennie Commission, and you're going to see a lot of that coming forward down on Lake Road, where over $2 million to improve down there. That's got us money for Sandbar Park. We're gonna start 2020, pretty soon, January, February, the $1.4 million sidewalk project up and down Ridge Roads, start next year. So the alliance we're all part of, is something that's great for the town of Webster, and we should continue with that venture as we move forward. Thank you.
I'm Ken Corpus, 755 Mile End Road, in case you don't know me. I think I've been here, I don't know how many times I've been up this podium, and I built my house in '95, right around the time you took to your public service in town, and I think I've been to town board, planning board, zoning board, all kinds of meetings, and I have to say that over the last few years, when I first moved here, I wasn't interested in politics. I just wanted to get my house built, get the kids through school and all that. And over the last few years, I think it's you, Ron, that's really pushed me into getting involved in the town politics. And as the chair of the Republican Committee, I want to thank you for 24 years of service to the town, to the Republicans in town, not only the Republicans, but also the Democrats and the independents. And everybody has value now in the town of Webster as a result of all the things that you've heard here tonight and listed. So I appreciate everything you've done, and I look forward to seeing you around. Don't be a stranger.
I think that's it.
Oh, it's not exactly.
Uh,
I'm not gonna get up to the podium, I just, I've been listening to everyone's comments, and especially yours, Ron. Congratulations for getting through them, I know that was difficult for you. And we do have wonderful department heads and wonderful town employees who serve all of the residents of town, but we know that an organization is only as good as the leader. And I think that your leadership has set the tone for one of excellence in this town, and I just want you to know that we all appreciate that. It has been both a pleasure and an honor to serve on this board with you, and to, when you talk about Kathy being a mentor, you're a mentor to all of us. It was interesting to me, the part of your speech that you got through the easiest is when you talked about the finances and how you had not raised taxes, and that comes so easily to you, and of course that's to all of our benefit, those who live in the town, that you've kept such a careful eye on our tax dollars. But you've also done that with sensitivity to the needs in the town and with tremendous compassion. I know that people don't always see the compassionate side, but believe me, it's there. And I just want you to know that I have enjoyed the time, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Personally, can I go next?
Sure.
All right. So I've known Ron since probably a year after I moved into the village, about 10 years ago. And from the first day I sat across from him in the office, the one thing that stood out to me, Ron, was leadership, number one, and number two was honesty. And I think that anyone who knows Ron, who has sat down and talked to Ron, will tell you the same thing. You may not like what he's going to say, you may not give you the answer you want to hear, but he will be honest with you, and you can't ask for any more than that. He's not going to tell you what you want to hear. He's going to tell you the truth. And that is probably one of the most, your attributes that I like most. And I want to thank you for, especially working with you when I was mayor of the village of Webster. Your door was always open, and I felt that we worked very well together. There were times that, and Ron would tell you the same thing, that we may have disagreements, and a couple of them were, they were pretty good disagreements. And I actually didn't go into his office. I didn't talk to him for probably 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm like, I gotta go in there and mend fences, and I walked in and I stuck my head in your office, and I'm like, are we good? He goes, yeah, come on and sit down. And that's just the way it was. You're gonna have disagreements, but there was no vindictiveness in Ron at all. It's just not there. He's very, very passionate and extremely dedicated to this community. I mean, I got phone calls from Ron at 10 o'clock at night, and we had conversations. He was not kidding when he said that, you know, he'd leave, you know, Karen family events. It's just, he's always working for the benefit of this community, always has, and always will.
Tough to talk about, Ron.
To his face.
Yeah, well, I've known Ron for 40 years. This is the hardest thing for me tonight. I'm sorry. Want to take a break? Yeah. Okay. Take a break, though. I've known Ron for, well, his dad was my Little League coach. That's how long I've known him. And we've had a lot of conversations, and we've talked a lot of tales. A good many of them can't be repeated. But we've always been able to talk to one another. And, you know, I was a highway superintendent for a while, and he listened. Although I also was a union president for a while, and he always referred to me as the union guy. And that wasn't necessarily a compliment on his part. But like Patty said, if you get to know Ron, there's a compassion inside him that you'll never see unless you get to know him. Other than that, you never see it. It's all business. And it's all business 24/7, 365 days a year. And anybody who's coming to sit in that chair is going to do that job is going to have to do the same thing, because that's what it takes. And Ron, I have not ever in my life ever heard anything other than you've done a great job. Congratulations, and we're going to miss you.
Thank you.
I'll try again. When I first thought about doing anything for the town, he goes to me, he goes, oh, you're in construction, you're in engineering, how about the planning board? Well, I thought about it for a while, I got back to him, I said, I'd be interested. I had an interview with Kathy Thomas, and after the interview, she offered me a position on the planning board. That was in, I think, 95. Served almost 10 years on the planning board, and an opening came up in the town board. And for whatever reason, they thought I'd do a good job here. I've been elected to 4 terms. Sorry, this is the hardest term that I'm going to have to serve, because I think the heart and soul of this board is going to be gone. I'm sorry. But Ronnie, I wish you the best. And I'm going to come to you for questions and answers, like I always have. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. We've had enough. I've had enough. Let's go home.
Bill's really had enough.
I'm going to be around. I'm still, New York State says I can stay until December 30th. So I will be in the office until December 30th. Hopefully I'll get heat sometime before then. The unit on the roof that was original to the building is finally gone. You'll see a crane there. They got to bring in a new unit, but they got to put the crane on the roof on Monday. But we haven't had heat there for the last, in our wing for the last weeks, and it's freezing. But I'll be there until the 30th, and then I have to retire and I leave. But I'll still be involved in Webster government and politics and the community. We haven't decided yet what yet, but we'll be doing something. Thank you all very much.